Hey family, it's Getty here from Not Finished Yet, back with another video. Your story is being told. Let's talk about that for a minute. You know, we can compare each one of our lives to a story that's being told. You've heard that said before, that our life is like a book. Everyone has a book of their life being written. And sometimes you'll hear people say, well, I started a new chapter or I'm turning the page. So there's a very real aspect of our lives being compared to a storybook. And I believe that our life is telling a story. Now, what story ends up being told is really maybe up to you. Because in my honest opinion, I would say the best kind of story that you could have told with your life is when you let God tell your story. When you surrender the story that's being told of your life to God and you let him direct the story, then I think you end up having a good story that's told. But when we try to rely fully on ourselves to write the story, I think it can end up turning into a tragedy, or it ends up turning into something unexpected or a mystery, or you know just some kind of unhappy ending. Anything can happen, because ultimately I don't think we're equipped to be able to fully create a good story of our lives on our own. I really do believe when you let God tell the story, it will end up becoming a good story. Now, there's this idea of, someone I saw someone have a sticker that said, God is my co-pilot. And I thought that was like backwards. I thought, no, you have it wrong. God should be the pilot. God should be the pilot. He should be the one steering this plane. He should be the one that's the head of your life, telling the story. And I truly believe, I really do truly believe, um, that when we I think, because let me just say this. I think we do have some influence. I think we have a lot of influence with how the plot goes. We have some effect over how the plot of our story goes by the choices that we make. But ultimately, I think God is the greatest director. I think even though He has given us free will to make choices, and those choices ultimately affect how the plot goes, and they kind of like shape some of the story of our lives, I think God can take even every one of our series of free will choices and he can direct it in a way where the story ends up coming out good. Okay? So you are like the main character of that story. And of course, the choices that you make and the free will that you have is affecting how the story goes on a certain level. But ultimately, if you let God be the author, because he's the author of life, he's already the author of life. But if you let God personally be the author of your story, you will have a good ending. You will have a good story that ends up being told. Now, our choices, in a way, what they do in terms of affecting how the plot goes, is that we're left to kind of have the decision of how we want our story to go. The choices that you make in your life, how you live your life, is affecting how the story is playing out. Okay? So, us as a main character of our story, we have a part to play in this. God can do amazing things with our life to tell a story, but I think also we have a part to play. And you know, the main message I'm trying to state is that when you let God direct your story, when you give your life to God and you let Him be the ultimate author, that's the best decision, in my honest opinion. I think that you will have the best story of your life to be told. It's like, what are you allowing yourself to follow? What kind of choices are you making that's shaping your life? Because there's some people out there that are following trends. I've seen people following trends on TikTok. You see people, this whole thing blow up about having these Stanley Cup tumblers. And this whole trend started off, and now you see people actually buying these things and carrying them around. And there's stories that are being told all the time that people are buying into. There's trends that are being followed from online. Social media is teaching our kids. If we're not teaching our children, social media and the internet is teaching their children. But these are all having effects on how the story goes. So what are you allowing to tell your story? Are you following trends? Are you following misinformation? Are you following bad advice? Are you living for something of this world? Are you letting the world tell your story? Are you letting the world tell your story, or are you letting God tell your story? Because ultimately, that's the best choice. When you let God tell your story, you can't go wrong. So it's just something to think about. Your story is unfolding. The story of your life is unfolding. We screw things up. We have a tendency to mess things up. So when we try to take things into our own hands and we want to control the plot, and we want to be the director, and we want to be the author of our life, and we want to write every sentence and chapter, and we want to use our free will in the way that we choose and want to make it, then there's a tendency to have things screwed up. But when you give it to God, when you let God be that author, you can't go wrong. That's the main message of this. Your story is being told, but what is telling your story? What is it that's telling your story, or rather, who is telling your story? So it's something to think about, guys. I know that was a little rough, going through the wind and trying to remember everything I wanted to say. But thank you for sticking with me. I just wanted to remind you that your story is being told. Your life is unfolding in a way where a story is being read. I empower you and encourage you. I implore you to let your story be told by God. Let God be the director of your story, and you won't go wrong with that. God bless you. Peace, family. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.